I'm Kimberly Henry, and this is Living the Good Life. In this series, we'll feature conversations around ways to embrace the goodness of life and take a big, juicy bite out of it. Food for the soul and the funny bone. Learn to give more time to yourself, become a better friend, lead an amazing life, and how to tell the best joke at the party. Living the good life can mean different things to different people. Whatever it is for you, I hope you'll find some inspiration here to live your most joyful, authentic life. Now, on to today's conversation. Have you ever dreamed of chucking all the trappings of your life and just traveling the world, living out of a suitcase? In today's conversation, we'll be talking about full-time house sitting around the world, places like Mexico, Egypt, Morocco, Las Vegas, and Hawaii, among others. For the past 5.5 years, today's guest and her husband have lived a completely nomadic house-sitting full-time, living across the globe, taking care of other people's pets and homes lifestyle while carrying only 2 suitcases. They've loved it so much, they've created a course around it for others to experience this untethered lifestyle. I can hardly wait to learn more in our conversation today. Please welcome today's guest, nomadic lifestyle house sitter from her current assignment in Hawaii, the lovely Eden Rudin. Eden, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
How is Hawaii this morning?
Oh, it's lovely. The weather here is lovely all the time. It never gets above like 84 and probably never cooler than 72. So it's lovely.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Such a tough life you've got going on. So Eden, first question, what's the best thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
Went for a walk with my husband, got out of the house and actually went on a walking path and did a little quick walk.
Yeah.
When we have a beautiful view here, so it gets hard, we get caught up in sitting and watching the view and not really leaving the house. So we have to get mobile.
Right. Let's walk and watch the view.
Yeah.
Such choices. Such choices.
It's really a tough life.
I can't wait to hear more. When you think about living the good life, what does that mean for you? What does that connotate?
Where your lifestyle comes first, like what's important to you. So but the things that bring you joy internally are the priority. You're living the good life. So that could be, taking care of a ranch of horses. It doesn't have to be traveling and being nomadic and stuff. Whatever makes you feel good internally and brings you joy is the majority of how you live your life. You get to spend your time doing that. Fabulous.
And it sounds like you have really cracked that nut. You've made that happen for yourself.
Yeah, we love traveling. So that brings us a lot of joy.
For yourself. And I say yourself, but your husband is along with you for this journey. And you guys have been traveling for how long now?
We left the U.S. in early 2013. So 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was it immediately into house sitting, or tell us a little bit about what your life looks like today. And then let's talk about how you got there.
So today we are completely nomadic. We have no home base. We use my mom's address in Vegas, but we go from house sit to house sit basically. And even during COVID times, this has been a little bit trying for us, but
sure.
The world just kind of shut down. We were supposed to be in Egypt for 5 months on a house sit. But our life is finding house sits, planning our schedule, traveling to them, staying there. Figuring out what the grocery store is and how do we mail packages and get things to us and get haircuts and medicines and all the things you have to do in your normal life, but in a new city. So that takes a lot of creative energy, I think, a lot of patience, and it just brings that, I don't know, the sense of freedom. Like, we decide where we live, basically. So, and we started this back in 2015. In 2015, we started house sitting. And we were in Nicaragua at the time, renting.
Oh, okay. So you actually started this as a renter.
Yes. So we were renting. We moved to Belize in 2013, and we lived there for a year with the intention of getting our residency and staying there permanently. But Belize really wasn't it. We really started feeling a bit unsafe the last 4 months or so, and it came time to get residency. And it's a big financial investment. It was like $5,000 for both of us to invest, to just literally hand the government money to say, please let me stay here permanently, instead of getting a visa. So we had to contemplate whether that's what we wanted to do or not, and we followed some advice of some friends and went down to Granada, Nicaragua. Fell in love with it, rented a place, and we spent a full year there renting. So we had a dog with us. We had our dog from the U.S. So we really went from we were non-nomadic, obviously renting. We were fixed location. We had friends. We went to coffee. We did social things. We had movie nights with friends. We did all kinds of stuff. And then it got to be where we were at that point, we're 2 years out of the U.S. and we were wanting to travel more. And I just had been on Twitter a lot. Nicaragua is one of those places where, kind of like Hawaii, when people come here, there's a reason they come. It's not close to anything. It's Central America route. I mean, it's like a Central America route if people are traveling through Central America. But people just generally don't plan on going to Nicaragua. It's just not one of those places. So I was keeping up on Twitter and Facebook and watching hashtags and talking to travelers as they came into town, like, hey, I live here. If you want to have coffee, let's have coffee. And some travelers just over and over again, we kept hearing this. Oh, we house sit. Oh, we just finished one of them had just finished a 6-month house sit on the island of Viscus, which is just, I think I'm saying it right, just offside of Puerto Rico. And they were on their way to Greece to yacht sit for somebody. And somebody else had just come from Mexico and they had house sat. And then somebody else, Guatemala. And I'm just like, what is this thing that people are doing? How is this happening? And so I started doing some research and I said to my husband, do you want to house sit? And he goes, no. He's like, no, I don't want to live in somebody else's house and sleep in their beds and use their kitchen stuff and take care of their pets. And no, I don't want to, that has no appeal to me. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess we just won't travel as much as we thought we would. We'll just go out of Costa Rica and do some traveling in Central America, maybe South America, but we're not going to get to Europe and things. And just because winter in Central America, financially, it's quite burdensome to get to Europe. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You have to come back up through the U.S. and then you have to go to Europe. And it was just financially, it's a big burden. And I'm like, well, I guess we won't do a lot of Europe stuff then. And I don't know. He kind of just pondered it, it's like a little seed. And finally he came back and one day he's like, well, could we travel a lot more? And I'm like, the whole world. There are house sits everywhere. He's like, really? So I started showing him on the computer, reading him the ads and 2 months in Spain and a month in just everywhere. I mean, any place, France. And he said, okay, let's talk about it. And so it just turned into one of those things where life just presented us with something. A friend had said, hey, can you come watch our place for 5 weeks in Nicaragua in an area we would never have gone to, on the Caribbean side, turquoise blue waters, beautiful island. And we're like, 5 weeks. Yeah, we can keep our apartment. Can we bring our dog? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, we'll just pack up some suitcases, keep our apartment, go for a 5-week vacation. And literally 4 days later, another friend calls and says, I think we're going to buy the house down the street from you guys, but we can't move in for 5 months. Can you guys watch it if we buy it? And it was fully furnished. They're buying it fully furnished. And we're like, what? They said, yeah, we
So the world just started conspiring to fit your plans, it sounds like.
Which it does. It happens. I think I personally believe if you listen to it and you put it out to the universe what you want, I mean, you really it does come available to you if you listen to the signs. And over again, that's happened to us. But house sitting was one of those things where it just rolled right into what we were looking for.
Now, most people, when they think of a house sitter, they think of hiring somebody. It seems like an expense, especially if you have pets or plants and stuff like that. But if I understand correctly, what this community is that you're part of, it's an exchange. Just I'll do this for you, you do this for me, kind of a thing.
Yeah. It's the sharing economy at its best. It honestly is. Yes, it's absolutely exchange. There are people that get paid to house sit, but usually you're in your fixed location. Like near your home. So you have all your expenses of home, and you're offsetting those expenses by staying at somebody else's house. Like, so you're still having to pay for your home while you're living at somebody else's house, where
right.
The people there is a whole division, kind of like, I guess, like every business, there's two divisions. So there's a whole nother tribe of people, a community of people who don't pay. So, and some of them have homes. They may say for 4 months a year, we want to travel. Right. And they rent their home out, or they have their kids come over and watch it, or they get a house sitter. Right. They
get their own house sitter.
Or they don't have pets or plants or anything, and they can just lock their place up. We've had 4 or 5 sits already that have been long, extended stays, 6 weeks or more, and with no pets. So the people probably could have locked it up for safety, especially when you live outside the U.S. So for safety and security issues, you're not just going to lock your house up and have a vacant home. So you're not going to want to pay somebody.
Sure.
You're still paying the owner is still paying the expenses of the home. So utilities are all kept on. Everything is left normal. So they had that expense. But for the pets, yes, most people would think like lodging a pet obviously is very expensive. But again, when you're out, it's different, because when you're outside the U.S., that's not really that common. Like, you might have a vet who will lodge the dogs or the cats, but he doesn't have a playroom and a pen, and you don't know if the dog's getting walked all the time. It's very stressful on the pets.
Sure.
So yeah, outside the U.S., it really does. I'm not going to say that's the majority of them. Actually, it probably is. There's a lot in the U.S. There's a lot in the U.S. But the majority are probably where foreigners have moved. People that are foreigners are living in another place. So like in Spain, right? So expats, so people that were Americans or British or whatever, and they moved to Spain. So they're not necessarily, and in Spain, we've sat in Spain a few times. I don't think, nobody's ever mentioned to me that there's been like doggy daycare places.
Sure. So are you sitting then, even though you're traveling the globe, are you sitting for mostly Americans who live abroad or have a second home abroad, or are you sitting for locals in each of those communities?
Yeah, no, it's always been for expats. So it's not Americans per se. And we've sat for Swedish, we sat for French, we have sat for some Americans. But yeah, it's usually an expat who lives in the foreign country.
Okay. So interesting.
They generally don't speak the local language well enough, right? That's one of the big ones, right? We've been places where they don't even speak. In Spain, the owners didn't even speak Spanish at the time. They do now, but they've been there a few years. At the time, they didn't speak Spanish. So there's enough English-speaking people and to find the resources you need. But again, her dogs were very anxious, and there's no way she was going to go away for a month and a half and put the dogs in a kennel. It wasn't going to happen. So it's a lot easier on the pets.
So what do you do with your furniture, for example, when you transition to this lifestyle? So you were in Nicaragua, you had an apartment, you had all your stuff, and you decided to jump in.
Well, we didn't move with any furniture. We moved when we left Belize. We brought 12 suitcases and our dog. And suitcases, I mean, like 5 of them were Rubbermaid tubs, and 6 of them were actually pieces of luggage. And then when we moved to Nicaragua, we had 13 pieces because we bought a TV. We did buy a TV in Belize, but everything else we moved into furnished places. So the stuff that we had, so at that point, my husband had a bunch of tools because we thought we were moving to Belize to live. So, and he had a whole tool shed. So he took the tools he wanted with him. And so at that point we went from 12 suitcases to one big backpack, those like big camping backpacks, and 2 suitcases, 2 rather large, not the giant ones, but a large size suitcase when we left the apartment, and everything else we sold or gave away, except for 2 Rubbermaid tubs. We couldn't do the tools yet. He wasn't ready to say, we're never coming back. He loved Nicaragua. So he wasn't ready to say, we're never coming back. This might not work out. Right. We're kind of like in this, this might not work out. So I kept like a fitted sheet and some of my favorite dishes stuff. But the friends that moved there, the 5-month house that we had, we moved a lot of that stuff into their house. And then when they moved, we said, look, this stuff is ours. Go ahead and use it. Stupid to have it in storage. Go ahead and use it. And then if you break it or lose it or whatever, at least it got used. Right. We ended up with 2 Rubbermaid tubs in storage. We had some art. When we moved from the U.S., we had like pictures from home, not in frames, but pictures. We had a lot of personal stuff. Mm-hmm. And that had to stay in storage in Nicaragua, which it did for 4 years. So, yeah.
For 4 years, and then
we went back.
You went back.
Yeah, we had a 5-month sit in Nicaragua. We went back right during the civil unrest stuff started. And we decided at that point we need to sort out these bins, and if we're not, and it's been years. If we don't want it, we don't take it with us. It's not great.
Right. So you travel now with just 2 suitcases for each of you, or together?
Total. And one small one that we can actually, you could classify as a carry-on, and then one, the larger one that we always check. Yeah.
How do you live out of 2 suitcases? I mean, that's all your life, right? You don't have a.
My mom has a box that's probably 12 by 24 maybe in her house. Those pictures, like, and some art, little things like that. But yeah, no, everything we own is with us. So we really are minimalist normally, except for right now because this is like weird time. But normally we have 1 pair of shoes each, literally. Wow. And the pair of shoes that's on our feet when we walk through the airport with are what we have. And not because we're dirt poor or anything. It's just that we buy a pair of shoes and you only need a pair of shoes. I mean, my husband didn't have he just bought a pair of closed-toed shoes. Didn't have closed-toed shoes for 5 years. And if
you picked your sites well, did you?
We do. That is true. We are warm weather followers. So we are very picky about that. We don't go anywhere there's snow. We won't. So we're not going to be in England in the middle of winter, right? Because that necessitates a lot of clothes. And 2, we would be miserable. We don't like to be cold. So that helps, right?
Right.
And packing wardrobe-wise, you really don't need that much. When you sit down and think about if you sat down and looked at your closet and said, what have I worn in the last 12 weeks, 3 months, it's going to be 5 or 6 pieces. And if it's the other pieces that aren't there, that are the exceptions, that exception could have been modified by going to a thrift store and picking something up and leaving it behind or something. So like you had a fancy dinner or something. Yeah. If you really look at it, you just don't need, unless you have a job and you have to wear business suits and that kind of stuff. But on a day-to-day basis, if you're living a lifestyle of freedom and simplicity, right? Where you just don't need that much stuff. I mean, even a rancher, there's you 3 pairs of jeans and a couple of flannel shirts and t-shirts, and you're good. I mean, how much is that, right?
It's true, though. I mean, it's true. We just went on a 4-day trip and in our RV, and I was reflecting. I took a lot more than a suitcase full of clothes. And I ended up wearing my bathing suit, I think 2 pairs of shorts, and a sweatshirt for the morning, and a pair of leggings in the morning.
Exactly.
And that was pretty much it.
And think about that. If you think about my 2 suitcases, how much space would those things take?
Not much.
Exactly. Yeah, our clothes are, literally my husband usually has 5 shirts, 2 pairs of shorts, the pair of sandals that are on his feet. And again, if we get somewhere and something necessitates the need, but we're not going to fancy dinner. I mean, if we're somewhere and somebody's like, hey, we're having a dress up party tonight, we're like, okay, well, we're coming in what we have. Nobody cares. Like, I mean, we've been to events where the dressiest I had is exactly what I wore yesterday, right? And if I can't get to we shop a lot of secondhand stores. And if I can spend $5 or $10 and make a whole new, basically wardrobe for an event, and just leave it behind, right? So that's not a big deal either. Yeah, it's very freeing.
What other life lessons? How does it compare to what you thought it would be like? And what have you learned from living this way?
Life lessons. I love challenges, apparently. I didn't realize that about myself. So I like the project part of it, like finding the airfare, and we do, and I am like one of those people, because we move around so much, that I'm very conscientious about how much we spend on travel. So I'm always finding the best deals on airfare, and I do like a whole little mini class on that, because it's like,
So you are paying for your own airfare to get to these locations.
Yeah. And you plan, so it's kind of like anything else. You just kind of plan it, right? So we're like, oh, we're going to go to Europe next summer. Okay, well, how are we going to get there? Where are we going to start? Where do we want to go? And then we start looking for sits. And sometimes we find them there, and sometimes you don't. It just happens that way. So you're not like, oh, we're going to be in Mexico, and then next week we're going to Europe for 3 weeks, and then we're flying back to Mexico. You're planning your route as you go around the globe. And with that, you can be very conscientious about how much money you spend. And when we left Central America, we went to Europe. It was $550 each to cruise for 14 days. And that included tips, the port charges, and the boat ticket.
So for 14 days, you had a cruise vacation?
Yep.
We
literally call it a vacation. Yeah, it's a vacation because we don't have any responsibilities to anybody's pets or homes. Yeah. We took a transatlantic cruise from Panama to Portugal. And then we had a house sit in Spain. No, we had a house sit booked in Spain, but we had space in between. We took a house sit in Morocco first, and then went directly, and we are like back to back. Literally, if something would have gone wrong, like the bus would have broken down on the way up Morocco back to the airport, we would have been screwed, because the people were leaving the next day after we arrived. Like, things can fit really tight. And then we spent a little more than a month in Spain, and then we had a house sit in Portugal right next door. And then we were planning on heading to Asia. We wanted to go see Thailand. Everybody had told us that Thailand would be fabulous, and northern Thailand would be fabulous for us. And an opportunity to speak at a conference came up that was in the Philippines, and I applied to speak, and they said yes. So they flew us to the Philippines, which it just snowballs. And then we're in Asia, right? And we actually rented in Asia for a month and a half.
Okay.
And we stayed there because it was just so inexpensive. And we had some house sits booked, but they didn't. The king died on Friday, and we flew into Thailand on Monday. And it was almost not as bad as COVID, but we've been in some situations where, the world, it was kind of topsy-turvy in Thailand. So things got canceled. And then Asia was a bit harder than I think we expected it to be. That was probably a life lesson, is don't listen to people. Like, get your information from people that are more in your demographic. We're a little older. So if somebody says, oh, this diving spot is, this place to go on the beach is really spectacular, I do a little bit more research, because my husband's a bit older and entry to beaches isn't easy for him. So you kind of have to get information from the people that are in your age bracket. So Asia was a little hard. So we headed back to the U.S. to kind of do a little detox. And then Mexico came into the picture, and then Egypt again, and then Mexico, and now we're in Hawaii. And I have no idea of this COVID thing. That stopped us.
Okay, so that did affect your ability to travel between places. Does it look like that's going to change at any time in the future?
Yeah, it'll start loosening up, definitely. I think by January things will be much looser. We had planned on being in Egypt we had a 5-month house sit booked in Egypt for this summer, basically May to October till now. And we were taking the cruise again, that same cruise, the transatlantic cruise. We're going to fly down to Panama and then cruise over, and then fly to Egypt from Europe. and it was going to be like a month vacation, 2-week cruise and like 2 weeks in Europe, just hanging out, and then fly over to Egypt for 5 months. And then COVID happened. We happened to be at the layover in my mom's house. We kind of stopped in to see her. She, for health reasons and stuff, kind of just give her a little visit. We had a 5-week layover we were spending with her before we got on the cruise, and COVID hit. So we ended up spending like 2 months with her. And then we went up to Montana to see my daughter for a month because we had nothing really else to do. And then we got offered a house sit in Hawaii for 3 months, and we said, yeah, we'll take that. So people are traveling.
Yeah, it sounds fabulous to be able to say, oh, well, I'm just going to spend a little bit more time with my mom, or I'm going to go spend some time with my daughter because I don't have anything else on the schedule. For folks who are working full time and want to jump on this bandwagon as well, how do people pay for this lifestyle?
So we have my husband's Social Security, and it's not a big, it's the average U.S. Social Security check. It's nothing big, but it really doesn't cost you that much if you're not paying for lodging. Your expenses for a trip are minimal. So for people who are still working, you still take a vacation, right? So look for house sits to be I shouldn't say look for them. You have to decide that's something you want to do because there's a responsibility. Your responsibility is to the home and pets first and foremost. It always has to be. These people, just like your home, everything you own that's precious to you is inside those walls, right? You have that responsibility. This is something of everybody. This is this person's valuables, right? It's their home. And again, with pets. So if that's a responsibility you want to take on, then looking for a house during your vacation absolutely makes total sense. So you could go to Spain and have a 2 weeks house sit in Malaga, Spain, and be on the coast of Spain, or where, I mean, there's just so many. You could be in France. You could be on a alpaca farm in France if you wanted to for 2 weeks. I mean, we had friends that were in Australia and they were on a kangaroo farm, right? It was a kangaroo rescue farm. Like, I mean, there's anything you can think of. Those people take breaks, right? They need vacations too. So they take breaks and they look for house sitters to watch the house. But so you might not be, we are not very good tourists. If you look at if I give you the map of all the places we've been, you're like, oh, look at all you've seen. We haven't seen it like everybody else. We haven't done all the tourist things. In Egypt, we did a lot of tourism. We did some touristy stuff. And in Morocco, we did a little tiny bit, and it was during Ramadan. It made it complicated. But we call ourselves a world worst tourist because we don't have the ability. In this case, we're on the west side of the Big Island of Hawaii, and we can't really leave the house for more than 5 hours at a time because the cat needs us. She's an older cat; she needs to be fed. They don't want to have somebody away from her for more than 5 hours. So we can't just run over to Hilo for the day, which is 2-hour drive each way. We can't go to the volcano park and see the volcano. We can after the sit if we want to on our own expense. So you have to kind of have that sense of responsibility in your plans, but absolutely you could take your vacation time, and there's house sits in Boston, in an apartment in Boston. There's house sits in Washington, D.C. If you're in the U.S., there's house sits in Florida. I mean, if you want to go somewhere, start looking for house sits that fit in the time frame that you want. You might get a 6-day house sit and then have to pay for lodging for 4 or 5 days, right? But those 6 days of not paying for lodging saved you enough money, and you get the experience of you're usually left with their car, right? They usually leave with their car, so you're going grocery shopping, and you're might be out. Some sits you can be gone all day. Like if we had a younger cat, we could be gone for probably 6 to 8 hours, 10 hours, right? The cat goes in and out the house. The cat has a litter box. They're pretty independent. But dogs and things, you just have to take that in consideration. The first priority always has to be what the homeowner's needs are.
So how does that match up with what you envision this lifestyle to be? Do you feel like you're missing out by not being able to do those things, or
No.
what are the positives?
It's real vacation. I mean, it's real. If I was working in back in corporate or we had our own business or then we were taking a vacation, this would be a vacation. The responsibility of pets compared to I'm not really concerned about vacationing where I have to see everything and do everything.
Right.
So if you're that kind of person, this is definitely has, my husband just opened the garage door. That definitely has a benefit. So if you want to relax and read a book and really just chill out, house sitting is definitely the way to go because you have a house, you're comfortable, you have a kitchen, you have everything you could possibly need. And if we've gone and bought things for homes. We were in, like in the Morocco sit, he didn't have, he had a juicer, like a press juicer, and they had oranges were so inexpensive. It was like 55 cents for 2 pounds of oranges or something. And they were so good. So we went and bought like an electric juicer so I can make orange juice every day. It was like $11 or something. So you just leave it behind. And if there's inconveniences, things that you're looking for that make your life that much easier, you go get them. But, and the owners sometimes are grateful and sometimes like, hey, I'll give it to the maid. Okay, give it to the maid. I don't care. It made my life easier for $11 or $15 or whatever. And I'm at your home for a month. So yeah, I'm absolutely, spend a little bit of money to make myself more comfortable. But yeah, I think the responsibility factor. Now we love pets. We love pets and not having our own, right? When we have sits that don't have pets, it's really hard. Really hard. We had a 6-week one in Mexico with no pets. And I was that crazy dog lady when people walk their dogs. I'm like, oh, he's so cute. I reach over to pet other people's strangers' dogs and things because I get really, really miss having a pet around. So that makes a difference too. But for the adventure of it, this lifestyle has been everything that I had imagined and more.
Do you think you will continue this for the rest of your life?
So my husband is 76. He's not a spring chicken. Probably in the house sitting community, he's probably one of the older ones. And everybody asks him that, like constantly. People are like, hey, are you guys going to settle down soon? He's just like, no, I don't really have any plans. So I don't foresee it. It's definitely keeping him young. Just the travel, obviously. And learning new things. Like in Morocco, they don't speak English where we were way in the boonies. French and Arabic, which we don't speak. So so going grocery shopping was quite a challenge because we don't know what we're buying. Some things you can understand, but for the most part, you don't know if that bar of soap is for laundry or for washing your body, right? It just, and is that chicken or turkey? Your Google Translate. Thank God we had Google Translate with us. I love Google. But yeah, so the mind challenges, the puzzles that you're deciphering all the time, somebody says, oh, we love this store to shop for this. And it's place you've never been in. You get there and you have to go through the whole store to figure out where things are because you've never been, there's all these puzzles. And so I think that's definitely kept him younger. So we talk about it. Like we really talk about, like, I think I'm the one who needs it more than he does. I miss going to coffee with girlfriends. I miss having my hair cut by the same person all the time. Like I never know what I'm going to get. Right. So I do miss some of that. But then I think, God, if we settled down and we're renting, we probably wouldn't be able to afford to travel again. Like it's a big burden. I keep saying burden, but it's a big expense. To pick up and 2 people to fly somewhere. And then you have to go round trip. Right? You have to come back to your home. Well, that gets expensive.
Right.
And then the lodging where you're there, even if we went to somewhere and we house sat, we have probably a little bit of gap because we weren't going to be on another house sit. And it could be quite expensive. And so we'd have to save up for that. I just don't want that stress.
Sure. How many other people are doing this full time?
Oh, thousands. We personally probably know 300 or 400, but there are in the tens of thousands. Yeah, it's a lot of people. There's at any given time pre-COVID, let's just go pre-COVID. At any given time, there was 3,000 or 4,000 house sits on the market across the globe. You could any day, just pick a day, and I could find you thousands of house sits in the low, like 3 to 4 kind of range all the time.
Is there a place like an Airbnb, for example, where you find these, or how do you find these opportunities?
There's house sitting websites.
Mm-hmm.
That just kind of came into play for us. But yeah, there's house sitting websites and there's house sitting communities. The websites are more trusted because you as a sitter are paying, and generally the owners are paying to list their site. So it's like a job board, right? So they post their pets and pictures and talk about where they're going and what the responsibilities are of the house and blah, 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 and what's offered. And then you have a membership. And when the sit comes up, you get notified, or you just constantly checking, depending. It's a lot. It can be a lot of work if you're trying to make it a lifestyle. And then you apply. Like it's literally a job board in all of its simplicity. And you apply, and then you set up a video chat, or you might talk a little bit back and forth first. You set up a video call to really see if you can connect with the person. If you have honestly, a true connection is best. You've listened to your gut. If your gut is telling you a bad match, you need to trust your gut. That's my life lesson. Trust your gut. And then you make arrangements to get there.
Have you ever had a bad experience house sitting?
We've had a bad experience. We I said, we like pets. We were in one situation where we went to somebody's home, and ahead of time we were in the same town, and so we had said, hey, they had posted in a group somewhere they needed a house sitter, and so we applied. We said, hey, we're in town. We'd love to meet you in person, because if you can meet in person, that's even better. And we'd love to do your sit when ours ends. And so we went over to the house and met them, and the environment was comfortable. Everything was great. And we went back 5 weeks later when our sit was done, and the environment was not the same at all. So it was very dirty and not well cared for. And it basically spruced everything up before we got there, and then it wasn't the reality. So that was disappointing. It was a lot of work. Denny has allergies, basically to cats. And the house I just had to clean, like for 2 weeks, every other day I was constantly cleaning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we wouldn't have taken the sit had we known. But other than that, no, we haven't really been disappointed. We do our due diligence thoroughly. Like in the beginning, we didn't know what questions to ask. And then every time we had a sit and we forgot to ask about that, or we forgot to ask about that, or like made a note. So now we have a list of questions that we make sure that we go through, which the owners do too, right? The owners have questions for you, because you're coming into it's both sides.
I can't imagine. Yeah. I can't imagine having a stranger coming into my home to take care of my things,
right.
And my pets. So I'd be doing some very strong due diligence on that.
Yeah. So there's that whole thing. And then we get testimonials, you have references, and it's just great. It's like I said, it's a sharing economy at its finest. When you're taking care of somebody's home, that is very personal.
What does your family think about your nomadic lifestyle?
I think we're crazy. And my mom jokes that she's like, I didn't know I was raising a gypsy. I used to be in corporate America, like in my 20s and early 30s. I was like business suit corporate. And then my husband and I met, he had his own businesses, and we started another business. And so always been entrepreneurial, but very grounded, very grounded. And my mom is just still can't fathom it. We had a house sit in Vegas it's a repeat that we go back to for 2 months, 2.5 months every year. And my brother and sister came for my mom's birthday, and we were at the house. We were house sitting, and it's right around the corner from my mom's house. And my brother and sister came to visit my mom for her birthday. And I actually asked my brother and sister to come to the house. My brother didn't, my sister did, so that she could see what our life was like. Because you just can't, you think that you can understand it, but then you walk into your house. They're like, you're living here for 2 months? We're like, yeah, this is what our life is. Like, you just don't, I don't know. They just don't grasp it. I still think a little bit of it, they don't really get it. they think it's fabulous that we get to travel and stuff, but I don't think that they really understand. Like with being here, my sister's like, "No, go over to Hilo and see some of the homes and stuff," because she's looking at buying a house, and I'm like, "I can't." And she's like, "You can't leave for the day?" I'm like, "No, my responsibility is to the home and the cat, and the owners have specifically said they don't want us gone for more than 4 or 5 hours. So no, that'll have to wait till after we're done with the sit. That's who we are." So and she's just like, "No, but you can't. The cat can take care of himself." Like, she's giving me all these reasons why I can't. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you say. I'm not here for you. I'm here for this owner and this cat. So yeah, it's
so it is a little bit of a job, just in such a different setting, right?
Exactly. It is yes. There's definitely a sense of responsibility. It definitely, when we don't have any responsibilities, like I said, like if there's no pets, or we're renting something, or like visiting my daughter, or whatever, life is no, I shouldn't say life is very different, because like I said, it brings us joy to be around people we enjoy. But it's definitely, it's different when there's not the responsibility, you have to take care of something. So
it's like a reverse vacation.
It is. It's a joke, because when house sitters right now with COVID, there's a lot of house sitters are renting, obviously, right? Some have been stuck. I mean, you can't even imagine you can imagine what your life blew up into. If you could imagine you were on your way from Australia to France for a 4-month house sit, and your layover was in Turkey, and they shut the borders down, and you can't get to France now.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, and you can't, going back to Australia, like, where are you going back to? You don't have a home, right? If you're nomadic, and where do you rent? I mean, it was but the house sitting community came together really, really impressively. Like, there was a group that put together hey, we're stuck, house sitters that are stuck kind of thing. And does anybody know anybody in this area where they can have an extra bedroom that they could use for a little while, or, a hotel or Airbnb? And then some Airbnbs weren't taking people, and some hotels were like, "No, we can't have anybody." So yeah, it definitely. It is definitely an adventure.
Well, so social media has just changed our lives dramatically. That's a great example. 20 years ago, you wouldn't have had the ability to connect like that.
Right.
Globally.
You would have had to go to a hostel
to mobilize those resources and get references and referrals and help and assistance. So it's amazing. These are amazing times we live in, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think we wouldn't have been able to have this lifestyle if it wasn't for social media. Even if the websites existed before social media, we would not have been able to do this. I would have had the fear around it. There would have been a lot more fear around unknown. But then when I can talk to another sitter who's done that house sit, or a lot of our sits come from referrals, right? So I can get a feeling for what's going on and from the people. But the researching the places we're going, right? That's it takes a lot of work. Like, how did you get off? You land in Spain, and you're not. Let's say we flew into one area, and the house sit is 4 cities away. They're not coming to pick us up because they don't need us for another week. We just got there early or whatever. And what do we do? Where are we staying? How do we get there? We don't even speak the language. How do you get a bus ticket? How do you deal with the taxi? I mean, without social media, to research that and talk to other people. I don't think I would. I think we would have just been in America living.
Where was home before you moved to Belize?
Arizona, Lake Havasu City, Arizona.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So you would be still sitting in Lake Havasu somewhere.
Yeah. It would have been.
Right. So tell me, Eden, you talked about being kind of a minimalist and, buying the things that you need where you are, and disposing of them. So you've got a pair of shoes and a couple pairs of shorts. What else do you carry around with you in your suitcase? What are the must-haves for travel?
So something we carry so every year it seems like we add something new and we maybe slough off something. It's kind of the same with the wardrobe, right? I buy my wardrobe for about 6 months. I wear the heck out of it, and then I get a new wardrobe. that wardrobe gets left behind and get a new wardrobe.
That sounds like every girl's dream.
It is lovely because you really, when I buy clothes I want, like I don't buy them because I need them. I know I'm going to wear them, so I have to make sure things coordinate well and things are comfortable, right? I'm like much more picky. So one of the things that we carry, which probably is not really necessity for travel, but it's weird, is we carry a washing ball. It's a ball with ceramic and metal beads in it that you actually use instead of washing soap in the laundry. So I don't use laundry soap anymore. We just throw this ball in the washing machine. So I carry that with me. So I haven't bought laundry soap in 3 years. So I know it's just really weird, but it's so efficient. It lasts. They last like 1,000 loads or something. So 3 years worth. I've replaced it twice now because of reasons not related to the ball breaking. But I do carry this washing ball with us. And Denny was carrying some tools with him, which actually saved us several times. He actually stopped a fire in one house and then redid some. He was an electrical contractor. So we, depending on where we are, it's like one of them, the light switch wasn't working. So he like fixed it for him, or it was a 3-way and it was only a 2-way. So we carried tools.
That's the house sitter I want. That's the one that brings their own tools.
Yeah.
So those gotta be in the checked bag, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They're not going to let you bring.
They're heavy. So we stopped carrying them because we've done more luxury sits lately. And with the more luxury, but when we're in Central America, if we go like back to Mexico, he'll probably bring his tools with us because it tends to find that he's more comfortable if something happens. I do carry essential oils with me, a small amount of essential oils with me, which is kind of medication. We carry a lot of medication with us. And he has asthma and high blood pressure. So it's not a lot, but we carry like 4 or 5 months supply with us at a time, which most people would just be like, 30 days and I'll get it where I get it. But because we don't know what we're going to do, because as of now, it's October or September. We do not know. We have a house sit booked in Vegas as soon as we head back there from this sit for a week. And then we have no plans. Like normally I'm booked for a year in advance. We are usually booked out for a year at a time, 6 months since my mom had a stroke, but 6 months to a year. Like we have a plan. We have absolutely no plan. So I need to be stocked up on his medication and things because if a house sit comes up that we want to take, we just want to be able to get up and go. You don't want to be waiting for having to figure things out.
Have you ever had to fill a prescription or find medication abroad?
Yeah, a lot. Not so abroad. It's much easier. It's much easier. But yeah, the U.S. is the worst. The U.S. is very complicated. So yeah, we go to Mexico. It's just over the counter. We know what to buy. We know where to get it for the best price because we did some poking around, but we just go and buy several. Like when we left Mexico in February, we bought a 6-month supply. And then when we were in Vegas, I ordered it from Canada and from India, another 6-month supply. So we were pretty much, we have enough until December. But if we're going to be leaving somewhere in November, I need to be stocked up again beyond that. So yeah, that's one of those things you just kind of have to juggle, right? Like you just have to plan. It's probably the biggest thing we have to plan. And then his cigars. We carry a lot of cigars with us. My husband smokes 2 cigars a day. And depending on where we're going, we need to stock up. So like the cruise, we took 300 cigars with us because we knew we were going to be in Europe for 3 months and we could take them on the cruise with us and they weren't going to
cigars or shoes. Cigars or shoes.
You can always buy more shoes wherever you are. You just can't always get cigars. So, so we've actually had a situation where we came into Mexico and we were over the limit and I had the numbers wrong and last time we had left behind, we brought 165 with us and we just figured we'd pay for it. And they wanted like $600. And we said, we're not giving you $600 for the duty on the, you're only allowed to bring like $425 per person or something. So anyway, we got in trouble there. We just left them behind. They're like, we don't want them. Like, you got to pay for them. I'm like, I don't have $600 to just hand you. I've already paid $300 for these cigars. I'm not giving you $600. You can just keep them. And we walked away. And they were just like, no, we don't. They don't want you to walk away. They want the money. But it was a woman, and she wasn't in my tears, and I couldn't get my way out of it. So, but yeah, so cigars is one of those weird things that we carry with us, pre-planning. And, bathing suits, we have bathing suits, again, not taking up a lot of space. We each have a bathing suit, maybe a sarong of some sort, which is good for a beach towel or a blanket on a bus. I mean, it can be multi-use. I don't carry makeup with me. I was carrying mascara, and then I realized I wasn't using it, and then I went and bought more makeup. When I'm in the U.S., for some reason, I feel like I need to buy makeup. I have no idea why. I don't wear makeup at all. And I seem to think I need to get some makeup, and then I end up, gets all gunky and I don't use it. And so I stopped carrying makeup. And my moisturizer, my favorite moisturizer, I'll carry that with me. I might stock up and carry extra with me, because some of this, when you go places, you just don't know what you're going to get. And sometimes you're going to pay. Like if you're in Spain, they have what's equal to a Walmart and things, but you don't know the products, right? They're not the same products that you're used to. So you're not going to put something on your face that you might give you a stuffy nose or, allergies or,
Right. You don't know.
And you're not paying $9 or $10 for a jar of moisturizer, or $30 for a jar of moisturizer when you don't know the product, right? So you're better off picking your favorite few things, spending the money up front, and just having them with you for your comforts. I think that's what I keep a lot of comforts with me. I now carry a coloring book. My new thing for this year has been a coloring book with colored pencils, but I'm not using it.
Really?
But I'm not doing it. I'm using an app on my phone.
So it's going to go the way of the makeup.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I think I'm going to use it, and I buy it, and then I put it in the thing, and I'm just like, same thing. Exactly. You're exactly right. Just like the makeup. I'm like, I'm going to use it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have, it'll be, I'll just try to make a point of it. And I'm like, no, you just don't need to. And I don't like to color with a pen and pencil. There's an app on my phone I color with. I'm totally addicted to, but I don't need the pencil coloring book.
Well, just to make you feel better, I have a few of those laying around that I don't use either.
Oh, good. Because I really thought it was a thing.
I have the best of intentions.
Yeah. But I just don't feel very artistic. If I do it on the computer, on my phone, it makes it look pretty. But I can't blend those colors to make that. I mean, I look at the picture and I know, I want to make the seahorse look like that. But there's no way. I just don't have that kind of thing. So we used to carry, I think it depends. We have knives at my mom's house in that box that we store. We have a set of knives. We have a garlic press. We have a good pair of sharp scissors. We were carrying those things around with us for a long time to Central America, through Europe and Asia, when we thought we weren't going to be coming back. We didn't know when we were going to be back. Now we've left them at my mom's house because, like I said, we've been more luxury house sits last 2 years, and we just haven't needed them, and I'm tired of carrying them. But if we head back, if we were going to go down to Costa Rica, let's say for a 3-month sit, or Panama, or I don't know, Peru or Brazil or something, we probably would bring those things with us again, because we don't know what.
Why?
Well, because you just don't know
why a garlic press.
A garlic press.
Of all the things, why a garlic press?
Because it's so lightweight, right? And it makes life just so easy. Instead of chopping the garlic, I just have this garlic press. I just love it. It's super lightweight, and that's the thing. With your podcast, the mentality of what that freedom is, what that lifestyle, that the joy of it all, find the things that are easy for you, that make your life easier, and embrace them. Invest in the things that make your life easy, so that you can have that joy. You can find that within your day-to-day life. It's not something I would have embraced 10 or 15 years ago, but now I do. I like with my shoes. So I spend $60 to $80 on a pair of shoes, but I find the perfect pair of shoes, because I'm not like where you guys have your favorite store and you go buy them. I don't know where I'm going to be when my shoes, they last about 5 months of wearing them every day. right? That's pretty much average of, so you have to think about that. And so I bought shoes in Costa Rica, I bought them in Mexico, I bought them in Thailand. I had to buy shoes. So wherever my shoes are wearing out, but I'll spend really good money on a good pair of shoes. And when I put them on, I have to feel like I'm walking on clouds. Like when I find that pair,
I've got to know what is a really good pair of shoes that it can be your only pair of shoes.
For me, they have a strap on the back and they have a small heel, like a wedge. So like a 2.5 inch wedge, and they always have a strap, and they have give, like, and when you put your foot in it and you have it on, it feels like you're walking on a cloud. It shouldn't feel tight in any
spot. So like a sandal.
Yeah, sandal for me. Yes, or open-toed. Definitely open-toed. But it's got to feel like.
So we're not going to Siberia. Nope. Somewhere cold.
But if we were, like we had to sit in Sweden, like in October, it was going to be cold. We would have bought a pair of shoes, maybe at Walmart, some pair of tennis shoes. Like it was just going to last for those couple weeks, right? We would have probably bought a secondhand pair of jeans and a couple of sweatshirts, knowing that the owner also would have sweatshirts because she lives there, right? And they don't mind usually. Here's a jacket, a rain. We wouldn't buy a raincoat. She'd be like, "Here's a couple raincoats for you to wear." But yeah, you'd buy some things on the low end. But my everyday pair of shoes are a pair of sandals, and they last. And they're never the same brand. They're never the same shoe. But when I get that good pair on, I don't care if it's $100. I'm buying that pair of shoes because over those 6 months, that shoe is going to bring me pleasure, right? It's going to allow me to do the things I need to do. And then when you break it all down, the miles that those shoes get, it comes to pennies.
Wow. What just a different philosophy of moving through life. I love it.
Yeah, it is different. I
know you're.
Well, I was going to say, I think about being grounded, and then I think about not being grounded, and I think all the things I like about being grounded, and then I think about all the things I like about not being grounded, and they just don't fit yet. Like, there's not a happy medium yet. So I think we're staying nomadic for a little while longer.
Staying nomadic. Okay, and so when you say being grounded, you mean like being tied to a location.
Yeah. We are looking at probably going to Mexico for this winter, and we're probably going to have to rent. We have a couple offers on house sits, but again, it depends on if they can get where they need to go. And I'm looking at Airbnbs to rent, and it's economical. But I think about, what if we stayed for like 6 months and rented, and I'm like, I don't want to be in this is so strange. I don't want to be in somebody else's space for 6 months. That's not my own. But I can house sit for somebody else for 3 or 4 or 5 months at a time and be totally happy. Like, I guess it's a money exchange. Maybe I have a thing with that. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't want to pay somebody to occupy that space. Like, it just doesn't feel right to me.
It's not yours.
Right. But if I'm in somebody else's space and I have the responsibility and the care of their home, then I'm totally okay with that.
So that just brings you a bigger, higher level of joy to be able to contribite to whatever space you're in, is what I'm hearing.
And I don't feel like the need to fix it. Like if we're renting someplace and I'm gonna want a bath mat for there. I'm gonna need this, and where even if it comes fully furnished, which they do, there'll still be things that I'll want to fix it to make it more comfortable for me.
Sure.
Where I'm in somebody else's space, I'm okay being uncomfortable because there's so much other.
Because temporary.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. This is fascinating. There's so many, different ways we can chase the tail on this whole experience of nomadic living. I know that you are teaching others and you're also helping others find a fit in, is it just Hawaii?
Yeah, just Hawaii. We just launched a house sitting platform for Hawaii, houseathawaii.com. So, and we got here, we realized that the owners, people that live in Hawaii do have a special circumstance because you don't have a situation where like your sister that lives over, like if you're in Arizona, your sister lives in California, she can come watch the dogs for a week. Like you're 5 hours away from
Got
5.5
you.
hours away from
Sure.
everybody. So
Sure.
house sits in Hawaii do come up. They come up pretty regularly, but I think it's educating owners, because when they do leave for a bit longer because you're paying for airfare to leave. So you're going to stay away for a period of time that justifies that cost for the airfare. You're not just going away for 3 days, right?
Sure.
Like you might go, like
Sure.
you just went camping for a few days. That's not a big deal. But here you're not going to do that. You might go stay at somewhere. Hawaii is very expensive for people to live here because it is a completely based on tourism. Everything is tourist.
Mm-hmm.
So even if a local wants to go to a hotel, they're paying premium prices. Or, not a local Hawaiian per se, but somebody that lives here, that even somebody that came from California or something that's retired, to go to stay at a hotel is expensive. So if you're going to pay that kind of cost, you might as well fly to Florida or fly to Mexico or fly to Europe or something. And so we did see that there was needs. We launched a house sitting platform, which was never on the cards, like never even talked about. And we got here, and within a few weeks, Denny's like, let's look at the population, how many people live here. Let's look at the demographics, and let's do this. So I built that up over the course of a month. And then, we have a house sitting course called Hello House Sitting. And it's for people that are curious enough to pay for basically like a hotel room for one night is the cost of the course. It's less than $100. But you get, worksheets and I do it live. So depending on where we are, so I can talk about what's going on currently. Usually we're on a house sit, obviously, when I do the course. And just teach them the travel hacks, like how to find the best airfares, what to expect, what not to expect, like what you don't tolerate. Like, if you walked in and there was a sink full of dishes and a load of laundry to do, and the owner's like, bye, leave, you're my housekeeper. Then you just say, no, this isn't for me. And you find a backup plan and you go for it. And the owner's having a backup plan in case we had one sit where we had a family member die and we need to go back for the funeral. And so the owners had a plan B in place. And, we had to leave the house sit basically, which was a horrible feeling, but it worked out okay. They had a plan B. Just a whole bunch of things that you just don't think about. So we go over all that, and then people get all their questions answered. And then we have a private tribe we put them into. So I share house sits and like a sharing base basis. So we'll get house sit offers that we can't take. Like next year, there's a 3-month one coming up. And I'm not sure if we're going to take it or not. Right? They offer it to us first, but if I can't take it, I want to find them some people, the right person to take that sit, because there are owners and you want to keep them happy. So we have a private network that after taking the class, you get invited into. So last time I ran the course, we had 2 people immediately get house sits booked. We had 2 offers come through to us, and I was able to find sitters for them. So it's just part of that sharing economy again.
Sure. So this can be, if you're curious about it and you maybe just want to test the waters with a vacation house,
right? And how to
or if you really want to dive in
your
and
friends
go
and
full
family
time.
know, right? So it might just be a drive for you. It might be a house that's just a drive for you, and maybe it's a weekend, maybe it's 4 days or something like that. It's something. It's not. You can test it out without having to spend a lot of money, or you can just dive in. Like I said, not everybody can be nomadic, although there's a lot of people work online, so they have the freedom to do it.
More now than ever before.
Exactly.
I can see this really exploding because people are moving to working from home, working online.
And then when you look at your expenses at home and you break it all down, if you were working at home because you thought you had to go to the office and now you don't have to, you can work from anywhere, and you break down your expenses from home. I mean, my husband says we save about $15,000 a year by not renting. We don't have car insurance. We don't have a car payment. We don't have mortgage. We don't have mortgage insurance. We don't have a rent. We don't have, the expenses. We don't have a cell phone normally. We don't have a cell phone plan. When we're ever wherever we are, we just buy a SIM chip and we use it for the time we're there. So, there's just a lot of, we don't pay the cable bill. We don't have internet. We don't have, you take all those expenses away from your lifestyle. And a lot of people are looking at that right now, like you said, that are finding that they can work from home. They're like, wait a minute, I don't need to be home for this. I don't physically have to be in this space. Yeah. So I think there's a new, well, it's all going to be new. No matter what, travel, everything's new now, right? It's all almost like this COVID thing has taken us to a whole new world. But I think there's going to be a new boom of people like looking at this and going, wait a minute, I can do this. Hopefully they all come into it, like I said, responsibly. Like not, it's free lodging.
Well, you are right. You're a great resource. I'm so happy we had the chance to talk about it and really learn how deep it goes. It's not just, hey, like you said, a free vacation. There's a lot more that goes into it, but it sounds like you are really loving and reaping the rewards.
And I'm passionate about getting more people exposed to it, because I really do think that even like you said, just for vacation, just to find the joy in seeing a new place and experiencing new things, it's just such a huge world. So I really appreciate having me on.
Well, I want to. Yeah, absolutely. I want to let people know how to find you. Your website, reallytrulyliving.com. I absolutely love that. reallytrulyliving.com. That's where you can go find out more about Eden and Denny and the house sitting situation and the nomad lifestyle and the course and the House Sit Hawaii is the name of your Hawaii platform.
Hawaii.
So if any of this has intrigued you at all, go to reallytrulyliving.com and check out what Eden is up to and what she's been up to and maybe what's going to happen in the next year with COVID and these changing times. So that'll be fun too. It's almost like a drama.
Oh my gosh.
We'll see what happens now.
Yeah. Well, some of these, I'm sure with what the podcast you're doing is that some of the things you've heard, I mean, just people's world are just upside down and backwards. I mean, just insane. Oh.
A lot of things are still the same and a lot of things are different. It's just how we respond and approach each and everything and the choices we make and the choice to bring the joy into all of it, whatever it is.
Yeah. Living a good life has to be joyful. It just has to come from a place of joy.
Yeah. Eden, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate it. It was good to talk to you.
Be sure to check the show notes for links mentioned in this episode and join us in the Living the Good Life Facebook community for previews of each episode, the opportunity to pose questions directly to our guests, bonus content, and a community of people committed to living their best life and sharing the journey. Thanks for listening. Let us know what value you received from this episode and what you'd like us to explore in the future in the comments. And please take a moment to drop us a like or some stars. I'm Kimberly Henry. Let's get out there and live the good life.